Despite being from different generations, a massive update to the Jabra Elite 85T meant that we had to make this comparison.
You've seen the thumbnail. This is the Jabra Elite 85T versus the Sony WF-1000XM3, brought to you by SpinFit.
Goedendag, we are DHRME.
Devastatingly honest reviews, man, every time.
Let's get physical. With the buds, the build quality on both is pretty similar, plastic. The Jabra sticks to buttons and the Sony have that touchy surface. We usually say we prefer buttons, but we've used both of these for a while now. And I have to say, I think that in day-to-day use, the Jabra's buttons are just a little too tough to press down. On headphones, we like buttons, but on earphones, especially at the place they're located, we think they're not ideal. While Sony's touch surface is not the most responsive, at least you're not pushing the buds deep into your ears. So the first point goes to Sony.
But let's move from the sense of touch to the sense of sight. The Jabras look much more subtle in the ear and in the pocket. The Sony WF-1000XM3 has one of the biggest cases we've seen, even though it's not quite the size of the Bose Quiet Bulge earbuds. But it still lacks wireless charging. The Jabras are much more portable but lack NFC that helps the Sony with pairing. Where are we with points?
But the Jabra Elite 85T have another trick up this sleeve. They can stay connected to two devices at once, which personally is super important. If I'm working, I can be connected to my work laptop and phone so that I can seamlessly move from a video call to a phone call. And after work, I'm connected to two phones. While this doesn't always work flawlessly, it works well enough for me to call it a crucial differentiator between these two devices. With the Sony, you need to reconnect from your second device, which is fine if you want to listen to music, but not so handy for incoming phone calls.
And while on phone calls, have a listen to the following samples we made in 3 different conditions: quiet, a noisy cafe, and windy as well. Once you're done, we'll be right here to give you our thoughts. Just use the relevant YouTube chapter down below if you want to skip the upcoming tests.
This is the Jabra Elite 85T in quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is the Sony WF-1000XM3 in quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Jabra Elite 85T with the noisy cafe. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is the Sony WF-1000XM3 with a cafe background sound. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Alright, this is the Jabra Elite 85T in windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Alright, this is Sony WF-1000XM3 in windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, 1, 2, 3.
We're not sure what Sony has done, but they have improved their microphones significantly since we last reviewed them when they came out. Let us start off by saying that the microphone quality gets very close to the likes of Jabra, but the Jabra Elite 85T still comes out on top, and this is why. On the Sony, despite the speaker's voice being audible, it wouldn't be a very pleasant experience if you have to hear someone with all that background chatter.
In terms of voice clarity, the edge again goes to the Jabra. The voice is a lot clearer and louder than the Sony. In the windy test, you can easily tell where they've put the microphones. On the right earbud for the Jabra and the left one on the Sony, because those are the buds which can't handle wind being blown straight at them. But when facing the wind head-on, the Jabras also did better than the Sony.
Another quick note on phone calls. What you hear on phone calls is just as important. I thought that the higher pitch sounds like S's on the Sony were way too grating, whereas on Jabra it was much more natural sounding. And Jabra lets you even customize that with the reduced bass or treble setting for incoming calls in the app.
In terms of on-device controls, the Sony just give you the basics of answering and hanging up, with an additional function to long press on either bud to switch the call from the earbuds to your phone and vice versa. The Jabra doesn't support this. The Sony will kick into ambient mode when you're on a call and you can't change that. Jabra, however, is fuckman territory because on top of what Sony provides, you also get the ability to mute or unmute calls and increase or decrease volume. And you can customize the buttons on the buds to also toggle the ANC or side tone, and also to switch and answer between a call on hold. Side tone, by the way, is the ability to hear your own voice while on a call, and the amount of your own voice you can hear can also be adjusted in the app.
I found both the earphones to be equally comfortable. Initially, I thought that the semi-open design and the oval ear tips of the Jabra would prove to be more comfortable, but once you get a good seal on the Sony, they're just as good. Curiously, since the Jabra update we talked about at the top of this video, I started to notice the occlusion effect on the Jabra as well, because now you can turn ANC off. So, was the semi-open design really the reason we didn't feel it in the first place? Or was it just the fact that we had either transparency or ANC on? Anyway, both of them share a pro and a con here. The Jabra is IPX4 certified, which protects you from splashes and makes them gym-worthy to a degree, whereas the Sony has no IP certification, which means you need to baby them a bit more.
On the other hand, the Sony comes with many more tips of 2 different materials in the box, which gives you more options for a better fit.
And are you still not satisfied with getting a good fit?
Then don't you worry, we've got a golden tip.
Here are a few words about today's sponsor, SpinFit.
SpinFit creates replacement ear tips for many popular brands. At DHRME, we endorse products which we have used and truly stand behind. And we're proud to have SpinFit as a sponsor.
Using SpinFit tips completely changed my experience with the AirPods Pro. They stayed in my ears much better and are more comfortable than the original Apple ear tips. Bonus, you have more sizes to choose from. I'm also currently using them with the Sony WF-1000XM3.
SpinFit creates ear tips for earbuds with a patented design and materials made from high-quality soft silicone. They have multiple models to fit your style of earbuds, whether you have true wireless earbuds or in-ear monitors. And they have a dedicated model for the AirPods Pro, which Rohan just talked about. Check out their products using the link in the description down below.
While talking about ANC, when on maximum noise cancelling, the overall volume attenuation was very similar on both, which means both cancelled out an equal amount of noise. But here's what's interesting, the Jabra seemed to do better at drowning out mid and higher frequency pitch sounds, whereas the Sony was the rank opposite. It did better with the lowest of low-end sounds, but pretty much everything was left untouched. So overall, I prefer the Jabra Elite 85T over the WF-1000XM3 here. Both have an ANC slider in the app, but the Jabra gets a leg up on the Sony by having a hear-through slider as well. The 85T really smashes the WF-1000XM3 in ambient mode because it has 4 levels of hear-through. The Sony calls it ambient, the Jabra calls it hear-through. It's the same thing. I even listen to music with hear-through on thanks to the AirPods Max. That's the world we're living in these days. It sounded quite decent with the lower frequency sounds being noticeably absent on the Jabra. The slider does a real good job, I must say, but doesn't have super hearing like the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro we reviewed, video up here. At the highest setting, you can get close to the feeling of not wearing earphones at all.
Sony's ambient mode, on the contrary, is tinny sounding, like you're listening to something at the end of a telephone line. It's not even in the same league as Jabra. Even with ambient sound completely turned up, the Sony doesn't come close to the volume that you would actually hear if you had your earphones out.
Alright, I think we are one of the few channels to talk about environmental friendliness. If you appreciate that, do give us a like or let us know in the comments down below. So Jabra employs a zero plastic policy for the Jabra Elite 85T package. The package is fully made of recycled carton in respect to FSC certification regarding the source of the carton. In addition, Jabra uses only environmentally friendly inks on it. Not everything is replaceable though. Only the silicone pads of the earbuds are replaceable. Jabra and Sony are both environmentally conscious companies, but only Jabra provided specific answers for these earbuds. We didn't receive any comment from Sony, but they do produce an annual sustainability report, being the huge company that they are, that you can read on their website.
The Sony has been around for longer, so it is much cheaper than the Jabra Elite 85T, and with rumors of a WF-1000XM4, there's no doubt that the prices are going to fall even more as stocks dry up. For the latest prices, check out the links in the description down below. It's a free way to support all the hard work we put into the videos. These two buds have some of the best Android and iPhone apps on the market. Tons of customization options, and in some cases, Jabra edges out the Sony with features like Find My Earbuds and a custom sound profile and options to tweak what the buttons do. But on balance, we think none of these things really affect the purchase decision for either of these buds. Even their battery lives are very similar.
When it comes to sound quality, both of these support AAC, and while both sound great, I would have said that the Sony beats the Jabra hands down until, that is, the latest software update from Jabra. The Elite 85T without the signal processing burden of the transparency and ANC sounds so much clearer. So be sure to listen with the ANC and hear-through turned off for the best sound quality on the Jabra. However, I found the stock sound of the Elite 85T distressingly bass focused, and I really need to do some brutal work with the EQ to get the sound I like. Out of the box, it's a very, very dark sound signature with the higher mids being really veiled. In a rock track like Haken's The Good Doctor, you hear the bass drum, the bass guitar, snare sounds, and almost none of the definition in the electric guitar itself. On the Sony, it's much closer to a nice balanced sound. The treble and sibilants tend to get a little bit too shrill for me. The S's in a song like Amy Winehouse's Rehab were really harsh while using FLAC, but they can be tamed with much lesser effort. Also remember that the Sony has a dedicated clear bass slider in the EQ settings, which means if you like the overall sound, you can just slide the bass slider around till it slides into the right bass. Sony also has technology to make your lower quality music files sound better, and with the latest update you can combine this along with the EQ as well. So good job, Sony. Jabra is easily the louder one, however, and the soundstage is also slightly wider than the Sony WF-1000XM3. Once EQ'd though, these two are very, very close, and I would say there's nearly nothing in it.
Despite the fact the Sony WF-1000XM3 were first released in August 2019, even before the Apple AirPods Pro, and hold up to this day is a testimony to their quality. In an age when everyone and their dog is making ANC earphones, the Sony WF-1000XM3 still holds its own in a matchup against the 85T. So the question remains, do buy or not do buy?
You should get the Sony WF-1000XM3 over the Jabra Elite 85T if you like to take it slow and use one bud at a time, if you want overall better sounding earbuds that are easier to EQ, if you're more into the sense of touch rather than pushing buttons, if NFC pairing gets you going, if you need more ear tips in the box for getting a better fit, else get SpinFit. If you like money,
you should buy the Jabra Elite 85T over the Sony WF-1000XM3 if you want to stay connected to more than one device at a time, if you want the ability to tweak the amount of ambient sound and side tone, if you've hopped on the wireless charging bandwagon and don't want your earbuds to be left behind, and if you want to be a bit carefree and have some water resistance just in case. You've been comparing the 85T with the XM3,
and we've been DHRME.
Namaste.